All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Mason Bercier. I created my app using React and Firebase. It is a Dungeons and Dragons app, and it utilizes the Open5e API to pull data from. Just get it right out of the way, the obstacles. Like I said, I made this completely with React. Rendering and setting state was something that was a little tricky sometimes. I kind of had to get creative with updating what was on screen. The API that I utilized was lengthy. It was really in depth. So I did end up having to hard code a good bit of information. It was tedious, but it was also really fun to do some creative writing. I also had to reevaluate what I could actually get done with the amount of time that I had. I commented out a ton of code. Some of it made it back in and is a working portion of it now. Other parts of it are still commented out and will be returned to later. Finally, our successes, utilizing different built-in methods, importing different methods, using things like .random for dice roll and damage, things like map to iterate over my API. Learning React hooks was really fun. I felt like every time I was like, I wonder if I can do this. I looked up a React hook and sure enough, there were a ton of resources for those. Also reusing old code. I know some of you are still working on your Pokemon APIs. I can't tell you how many times I went back to my Pokemon API to see how I reference data or index into it. And then about halfway through, I decided, okay, there's too much that I want to do. So I started making to-do lists and committing more often to GitHub. There were a few times where I actually had to go back and clone an old GitHub repository just because I couldn't get what I was working on to work. Making to-do lists was also very accomplishing, getting the scratch stuff off when I finished it. Anyway, enough of that. We are moving on to the actual app itself. Adventure awaits. So here we'll be making our very own D&D character. I have a combat loop that I'm still working through, but I think I have completed enough to where I can show you everything. A register page, which was created using Material UI. It's not really what the app is supposed to do, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I have a blank sign-in page here. I'm sorry, a blank user there, just so we can start from scratch, but we can see everything redirects. Let's create our character. So here we're iterating over the API and displaying our different data. Here is a bit of the hard coding we had to do with some useful information that gets used later. I like Cleric, so we're going to choose this. Up here, we are setting temporary data. When we click Save Class, it actually saves it to our database. Same thing with our race, some cool information. And then ability score increases, which actually gets used when we roll our stats in a few pages. We'll save our race there. Our alignment with a visual aid, in case you're not too familiar with it, because we are a cleric, we'll just do something like that. And then here we can roll our stats. So we have all of our different stat modifiers and everything. As we click roll stats, what it's going to do is it's going to create a random number between 0 and 6. Floor divide it and then add 1, which gives us a true 1 in 6 odds. It does that 5 times and then removes the lowest number for our best 4 rolls. So as we do this, it fills our stats. And like I said, with the racial bonus, because we chose human, it will add 1 to all of these stats. So we'll go ahead and save our rolls. And finally, we will name our character. Here you can see I've gotten a few different characters. This is a cleric which heals people, so we'll call him heal. We can save our character. And here it all is. Our name, our health, our class, what kind of weapon they would have, an ability, which you can use in combat over here. And then we have one more calculation for our modifiers, which is our stat minus 10 divided by 2. These modifiers get worked into our damage and our health. So if we go to our combat page and load our character, see we have our cleric, we can calculate our stats. And so now our max HP is actually this plus this. And so in our combat page, let's find an enemy and enter combat. And we are fighting an Aziza, which has 21 health and 1 to 11 damage. initiative is a random number between 1 and 20. Whoever has the highest goes first. So they will be attacking first. Oops. They did 9 damage to us there. I don't think we're going to win this fight. Did 4 to them there. Oh, and we won. So that was a successful combat loop. And I think that's it.
Let's go. I love it, Mason. First of all, I love your presentation.
Thank you.
I think it was a really good way to kind of introduce, like you said, some of the challenges, some of the struggles that you went through, but also, you know, some of your triumphs, some of what really worked for you. And I think that's super beneficial for, you know, some of these students who are coming up in their cohorts, you know, like your to-do list, like the fact that there are other hooks out there that we might not cover in class that are super beneficial when using React. So I love that you brought that stuff to the table. I think that's really cool. And then as far as your app goes, I love it. I think I love the theme of it. You know, it's like that old school retro gamey feel. And I know you've been super passionate about this project. You've always been excited to share your latest and greatest updates as you continue to develop, as we've kind of been working through class. And I love to see the final product is kind of what you've been talking about and what you've been describing this whole time. So overall,
Thanks,
I
guys.
think you did a great job. Great work.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, this was awesome, Mason. A lot of time put into this, and it shows. I think Shoha mentioned in the chat, like it would have been nice to see like some sort of animation of the roles. And there's a npm install for that. But you know, things that you can implement later on. But overall, awesome job. Couldn't be more proud.